So much for waiting. We are here with Joe Horn from Skywatch TV. I'm super excited to dive into everything that Joe has been working on, his work with kids, how, of course, I'll be, pulling this back and trying to frame the elites for half the things that are going wrong with the world, but that's okay. That's what we do here. But Joe, before we get into all of that, please introduce yourself, and thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for the invite. We're, of course, talking about my new book, Innocence Shattered, which I've struggled a lot actually to get platforms to want to take because of the nature of the content inside of the book. A lot of people, as we just discussed, off the air, don't have an appetite inherently for the want to have these conversations, when you're talking about the kind of dismantling that children are facing in this country that most people are completely blind to at the hands of malevolent individuals. And we're going to be very careful how we talk about this today. I am the CEO of Skywatch Television. We dig into Bible prophecy, the supernatural. We have guests on like Sean Tabbitt that go into, what are these near-death experiences and what does the Bible offer in terms of an explanation for that? What is going on with the paranormal? Are aliens real? A lot of Bible theology is unpacked every week. We have, of course, some of the brightest minds in the world, Derek Gilbert, Donna Howell, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, advisor to the Pentagon, Carl Gallups, some of the brightest minds on earth that have authored many, many works on these different subjects having to do with Christianity and supernaturalism. And I get to host it every week. And you can find us on YouTube. We also have an app at the App Store. You can download the Skywatch TV app if you want to check out the program free. So that's just a little bit about what we do with our television programming. I'm also the CEO of a place called Whispering Ponies Ranch that is there to serve. It's Skywatch TV's charitable ministry. It's there to serve children that have been pulled out of forced prostitution situations. These are children that have faced damage and exploitation. I'm being very sanitized here. And we are there to offer them a Christ-centered program with the specific design of rehabilitating those children that have been damaged.
Wow. I mean, it's incredible work when you're dealing directly with children who've been impacted by transportation and, predatory horrors, shall we say.
Yes.
And how long has that side of your organization been running for now, Joe?
We've been doing the actual face-to-face work for about 7 years.
Wow.
I always get confused because they shut us down 1 year because of, COVID.
Yeah.
And then there was another year where we had to move our camps because of an insurance dilemma that had nothing to do with any claims. It was actually we were part of a mass dump in 2024. We found out that like 10,000 church type organizations and secular organizations where they had adults working with children, that whole model of camping and, canoeing and whatever, that they were doing this giant mass dump, and insurance companies were moving away from that model and moving towards more, day camps and things without overnight stay. And so we ended up, by the grace of God, we ended up at another campground, several other campgrounds actually. So we did do ministry in 2024, but we had to move the model to other locations that almost viewed us as refugees. They're like, yes, we know you. We will take you. We will take your kids. But this year, we just finished one of the greatest seasons of rehabilitation in the history of our ministry. And it's a place that my father and my mother founded, the late, great Dr. Thomas R. Horn. And then, of course, my mother, Juanita Horn. And really just following their example, working around the children, seeing what could be done in the lives of children when they're encountered with an opportunity to be affirmed. And of course, this is done through many of our amenities. We have rock walls, Ron. We have zip lines and playgrounds.
Oh, wow.
Where they're put in circumstances where they're poised for success so that then they can be affirmed. Does that make sense? So it's a very structured program, lots of highly trained interventionists and therapists and
it sounds like a perfect recipe for the best chance of success for these kids. And it sounds amazing. And the more we delve into that topic, obviously, when we start talking about the summer camps or the grassroots predators, as I call them, right? The places where normal, average people's children can be targeted, right?
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how high up the ladder in society you go, there seems to be this issue across the board. Okay, we've seen it with the Diddy case. We've seen it with the man on the island, and the world seems to be steeped in conspiracy and conspirafact about children. And you know, in your research, in your studies, with what you cover on Skywatch, have you come across anything in your research that would convince you that, you know, these powers that be and children, there seems to be a connection?
Absolutely. We put out a 6-part television docuseries last year. One of the primary assertions, I believe, in episode 2, might be 3. There's 2 that are dealing with transportation and the smuggling of innocents in and out of the country. And basically, we make the framework that it is the government who is one of the largest participators in that process of children who are now maybe classified as runaway. And often, unfortunately, the foster care system itself targeted in these ways because it is an overburdened system. It is completely underfunded. Placement is difficult because you don't have a lot of people volunteering for this. And the ones that have figured out, hey, this is an opportunistic situation. You now have malevolent hands on young people as a result of the fact they have figured out through making an expertise out of this, Ron, how to exploit the blind spots in that system. And I can see your grin. This, you know, with some of the back work you've shared with me before we went live, this is not a surprise to you at all.
No. Well, what's interesting is we've delved deep into the exact same situation in the UK. Foster homes, care system, all of it. So I'd actually quite like for you to sort of just go over the issue in America and where around the world where you've done your research, because I imagine it's going to be the exact same thing. And you know, secret societies, you may as well just call them politicians as well at this point, letter groups, whatever slot fits in for people, because that's what's on the thumbnail. So I'm just trying to tie it all together for everybody.
No, for sure, because
it is prevalent. But yeah, take us through what you found with the foster care system.
So I'm going to quote some general aggregates from some of the brightest minds that we have in the United States that are attempting to try to present the corroboration needed to be able to make some of the following assertions. And I say that because when you start looking into missing children, and in my mind, I'm editing for the purposes of keeping this very sanitary because we don't want to go severely dark places in a broadcast like this. You find that there is information suppression. A lot of government agencies don't want to admit, for example, what's going on, or they'll misclassify, or they'll just recite the fact that because of medical records and HIPAA laws and things like that, that they don't have access to the actual numbers. So we have some good guys, though. Shared Hope International is one of them. The Polaris Project is another one of them. And then we have the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the NCMEC. And these are just general aggregations based on some of the more credible organizations out there that are trying to give us just very close estimates based on what they are able to track. But when I say this next part, realize that I just premised the whole setup with information that can be aggregated. So I surmise that this is much wider spread than what we know. Does that make sense?
100%.
So 300, if you take their national averages, it comes out to about 300,000 children are forced into transportation or the exploitation at the hands of malevolent actors annually. That is not a one-off. That is every year on average. When you look at the same people broadcasting the same information, you find out that there are about 25,000 children every year listed as runaway from the foster care system. And of those, over the average 365 days, so you have a 1-year cycle, they place it at about 11 to 12 just from foster care exploited and then transported into forced prostitution annually. And some of these, by the way, some of these organizations have it much higher. They're saying, no, those are absolute bare bones minimum. If you only prick the surface, they place it at 11 to 55 per day. And let me say that again, 11 to 55 per day. And by the way, in my book, if I may, I'll just show you the cover in case anyone's curious at all.
Tell us all about it. Let people know where they can get it as well, Joe. Plug it.
Right. Well, so the book Innocence Shattered lays this out in more detail, the actual systematic process of how this begins, especially in Western civilization, dismantling the insidious war against our children. You can buy it right now if Amazon.com is where you like to get books. You can also, it just dropped yesterday, came out yesterday. You can also buy it, though. It helps us as a ministry more if you order it from SkyWatchTVstore.com. And that helps to underwrite the ministry, which is a 501c3, skywatchtelevision.com. Yes, thank you very much. And right now, by the way, as you've brought it up on the screen, that series that I mentioned earlier, the Rescue Us series, the 6-part docu-series, we're doing something right now that is usually $100 all by itself. Right now, for a person's donation of only $55, they get my brand new book and the 6-part series for a donation of $55, which includes free shipping to all U.S. addresses. So when you support skywatchtvstore.com, it helps us then do the charitable work that we do at Whispering Ponies Ranch. So if you have a heart for children, if you despise the wickedness, the evil that they are being destroyed by, that's one way to do it. But getting back to your conversation point, we were talking about how this is happening. So people are exploiting blind spots in the foster care system. And for your audience, they may or may not accept this. This may frustrate some people. You may even have some viewers that like this fact, but I'll just be transparent with you. I am a conservative Christian. And so I put a lot of where I believe this darkness coming from, I place it at the hands of Lucifer. I would say, and you would be welcome, Ron, to share your worldview of this, but it is my opinion that what is truly driving the demand for the paid for exploitation of these children is demonic. Most people don't just inherently get there one day, in my view, Ron. Yeah, they don't just wake up, decide, I've got an appetite to listen to the screaming wails of terror echoed by tiny lives who haven't even finished developing their pineal gland.
Right.
Have you? You
could
make an argument. Go ahead.
You're so on the nail with it. It's demonic, it's inhuman. Like any word that just is the opposite of what makes us a good human being will work here. And it's what I believe happens when you are void of capable of loving something. You're capable of listening to the traumatic wails of a little child, because there ain't no human being that's capable of doing that. So I'm fully on board. It's demonic. It's evil. It certainly ain't human, Joe. I'll tell you that right now.
And I agree with you. And it's not a process that you see what we would call healthy-minded people just arrive at one day random. I was married and I was doing okay, and then all of a sudden one day I couldn't stand life without the capacity to get my hands on an innocent life.
Right.
There's a progression to that I believe is demonic. And to me, I'll just share my worldview, and your listeners and viewers can talk in the comments and disagree with me completely. But what I would assert is it is a progression of sin. It is people divorcing themselves from godly restraint. It is indulging in wherever their daydreams can go. I believe that we are living on a fallen planet since the Garden of Eden. We're living under it. The construct of the serpent snapping at the heels of man. We know that we're going to die. We're not. This body is going to die. And then, of course, if you're a believer in Jesus Christ, you believe that your body, now your spirit, will ascend and be with the Messiah for all of eternity. While you're stuck here, though, as ambassadors for what, in my view, is Christ, you understand that your mission is to not just do good works, but to pray for those, to serve your communities. If you're a believer in the book of Matthew, it is the gospel itself. Jesus Christ's gospel is not based on your works. It's what did you do for the least of these? It's not did you author a DVD and make a lot of money and were you generally a good guy? It's no, what did you do to stand in the gap for those that couldn't, to be the voice for those who have no voice? I was hungry and you gave me meat. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was sick and I was in prison and you visited me there. And then God, of course, he's using the analogy of separating the sheep from the goats, those being the goats. And then he turns to the others and he says, but I was thirsty and you gave me drink. Enter in. I was sick and in prison. You visited me there. Enter in. So what is it? You can complicate the Bible all day long, and you can do deep dives into the book of Revelation. But what is the core of the gospel message? It is what you're doing to serve the orphans, the widows, the least of these. And when it's done unto him. That's the instruction in Matthew. So when you divorce yourself from the idea that we were created by a creator to be subservient to a creator, and you give yourself over to whatever your sinful flesh can consume, and you remove the bumper rails and you reject God and you say, I am going to daydream, Ron, on whatever I can titillate myself with, whatever I can satiate this sinful nature with, there's a progression. Most people don't realize how dangerous, for that reason, the pornography industry is. Can I talk about that, or is this?
Yeah, I mean, what we need to, we'll just say the adult industry, because that's another one of those words.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of people recently have been coming up and being more vocal on the adult industry, of course. And I don't know if you know, the UK just took the steps this year in, you need to scan your face or send a copy of your passport or download a VPN, whatever one, to prove how old you are in order to access any not safe for work material, not just adult content, but anything with anything at all that could be nudity is locked down now. And now need to scan your face or whatever. And for the first week there was a lot of YouTube videos of people like printing out a face of like somebody in their mid-60s and trying to hold it up to see if the AI would be fooled, and the AI knew that it was a picture. And personally, I think that things that are meant for adults, right, should be kept out of the hands of children, and it's one of those. But the whole adult industry just, even to this day, still seems like a Wild West, because what is considered niche, okay, is just gotten so beyond what you would even imagine is out there. It's bonkers is what it is. It's bonkers, because I mean, when we say adult material, everyone goes to that place in their head where they just imagine a normal scenario, right?
Yeah, consensual lovemaking on tape.
Something like that. Maybe consensual, maybe a bit sassy, maybe they're both showing off a bit, you know what I'm saying? Maybe there's some backflips. But where it goes from there really isn't. It gets pretty dark. I mean, I've covered this for a long time, and
well, I'll be very careful because
I
don't want to create problems.
Sorry. I went off on one there. Just
no, please, no. I find you interesting, Ron. You've got a lot of life experience. I'm sure we've got stories we could trade. One of the things that I was getting ready to assert, and I'll be very careful in this. When you interview or when you hear people write, so those, my sister Donna Howell put out a book several years ago called Redeemed Unredeemable. It's a great book. It's basically a court case on why, if you subscribe to the worldview of the Bible, why God offers redemption and salvation even for those people that we would consider to be monsters. These are the people that have taken life. These are the people that have done great evil. But then, deathbed conversions, or they're later claimed to be repentant. And so it's basically an expose. It says, is God's grace big enough? Or is there a point where you've stepped over a line and you've done too many things that God would withdraw his redemptive process? And it's a serious work. She got written interviews from the Son of Sam killer. They really worked with prison ministries. They got people to talk directly to them at the time. My father helped co-produce that book. And so they were coming very much from a posture of firsthand experience with those that are claiming to have or have been convicted and now serving life sentences for the crimes that they were adjudicated for.
Of course. And
basically, one of the things that we discovered during the writing of that book is that most of these people, and this is what I'm going to tie back into the adult entertainment industry. And then I'm going to segue briefly into what you just described about, I'm going to use the word progressivism, but the idea that satiating, let's say, a pioneer from 150 years ago would have blushed if a woman had come in and shown modest cleavage. It would have considered, she'd have been casted out of the village. Like, you're insane. Right. Go put, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, you know, I know where I know where you're going to go with this, right? And my brain's already laid out the whole timeline, bro. I can see it, like 1776,
right?
nine layers of clothing on this woman, and
right.
we're going to get straight up to 2025. Carry on. I'm sorry for blowing the punchline, but carry on.
No, please. No, it's great.
It's a good analogy. Such a good analogy. Carry on, Joe.
It's just, it makes it hard to refute when I say this next part. Most of those individuals that are now living out life sentences that are guilty of having SA'd someone or taken their life will admit that at some point, one of the origins was addiction to the adult entertainment industry. And they will describe it like this. It was the first time they got so bored in their efforts to self-satiate that their experience got so progressive that normal consensual lovemaking on video was so utterly bored. They were so utterly bored with it. It was so utterly drab that now they needed something else. So where do you go? You raise the ceiling. And we're not going to describe what every one of those stair steps looks like, but you can see it in society playing out. It is a situation where what used to arouse or engage a viewer over the course of a period of months to years, depending on somebody's personal threshold, often becomes the need now to play out the evil power dynamics that they're watching. They are no longer satiated, even in a fleeting time capsule. They're utterly bored. And now the only thing that will take their brain to that next experience is something now that plays out evil power dynamics, the need to control another human being. You progress beyond that, and now you're dull. It's completely boring. The notion of having control over one human that might barely consent to also participating in this experience. Now it has to end up with the taking of lives. We're talking about asphyxiation. And again, I'm if I seem like I'm stuttering and stammering, some of this conversation is so difficult because what these platforms will immediately take down and reject. I want to be effective here. And by the way, for you watching, this is not because Ron Swanson doesn't have the appetite to have the conversation. He's not brave enough, or he's a coward.
Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, this is me being seriously cautious. Go ahead.
Joe is basically, he came on and said this. He's like, and it's, the way I summarize it is, we don't want our words weaponized. Okay?
That's right.
That's basically, so yeah, Joe's nailing it, man. You're doing a great job. So don't worry.
So that's what they would admit. They would say at some point during their origin story, it was that catalyst, the adult entertainment industry, that played right into that continual progression of being bored and now having to go further. And it ends up with the taking of lives, or the visualization of gore. Something has to take you to a place where you can still enjoy your fleeting moment of erotic. Unfortunately, one of the big ones becomes the control and the exploitation of young people.
Yeah.
Ultimately, for a lot of these who we'd now admit probably have become monstrous, now have their sights set on children. And they have figured out that there are lots of blind spots. I got to be careful because I don't like giving people ideas. But they see these government-run programs like foster care, and they're like, these kids are almost voiceless. They are often placed in homes with people that have a known history of accusation, finger pointing, which ends up, that old story, the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
One of the things that works in favor of these, I call them captors. These are supposed to be legal guardians or parents in the foster, aunt, uncle. But when they're doing these things malevolently to the kids, I call them captors. They have figured out how to exploit victim after victim after victim. And it becomes an almost boy cried wolf syndrome, where kids in that system have also figured out that by pointing fingers, they get a lot of attention very quickly from caseworkers, social workers, etc., but it has kind of a diminished return. So now you have this blend of children that are really and truly being exploited and damaged on purpose, but there's almost this cloak of covering because of the number of accusations being made at a lot of these captors. They're able to abuse over and over and over again. And the system is like, yeah, we've heard all this before. You've had 7 placements and 6 of them all said the same thing. They'll do an investigation. They're overburdened. They don't have enough caseworkers. And often these kids end up just being moved around. Does that make sense? And by the way, so for perspective, Ron, now if you want to jump in, interrupt at any time, but
no, crack on. It's the exact same here, right? It's like everything you're saying. It's like, yep, the check, you know, and 100%. And you know, I did an interview earlier this year with an incredible woman who survived institutional abuse through the care system, and she described the general abuse being people turning up in cars, and then you'd be brought out to the car park and things would happen.
Yeah.
But then she said the one time she went to the big house, right, was the one time where she was forced onto a bus, right, like a higher bus, you know, and then she was given a drink, and she knew within about 15 minutes that she'd been given some very strong narcotics.
Oh no.
And then the next thing, she woke up the next day back at the foster home, couldn't walk for like 3 weeks. Like and she couldn't remember a thing. She has no memory of this whatsoever. She has two flash memory moments of what she said looked like werewolves standing over her, right? But she also remembers that when she got on the bus, there was like a big mask sat on one of the chairs. So she assumed that it was people in masks, and it was just her memory. Obviously, her memory just turning it into these monsters. And it's just so mad when you consider that is still, to me, grassroots predators. You know, that's just some crazy rich dudes, Joe. We're not even on the billionaires yet. These are people that you could bump into down at Walmart. You know, that's the real scary side of it all, Joe. It really is.
It's absolutely, and when you could take it a step further, and you could say that these people are being paid to do this, because for every child that they receive in terms of placement, they're also being given subsidization for that. Does that make sense? So it's like you literally here, take these kids. We know that people are pointing fingers at you. Your neighbors are suspicious, but here's 3 more, and also here's a check, because we've got to put them somewhere. Yeah. For context, if people are curious how big this problem is, I'll go into some data here. Yeah. Right now, as we're doing this program, Ron, 420,000, that's a really close approximation. 420,000 children are actively living in the foster care system here in the United States. That's too many. And a lot of people, it's almost like monopoly money. When you drop a number like that is so big, a lot of people immediately tune out, because it's like, first of all, that number might as well be 500 billion. There's a certain threshold where it's just monopoly money. They can't even wrap their head around the reality of it. 420,000 kids.
Who cares if they can wrap their head around it? It's whether they're going to do anything about it. People can wrap their head around whatever they want. The number could be 2, or it could be 2 billion. It's the amount of kids compared to people able to do something about it are so outweighed, you know. And, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to guilt trip everybody to rush out and just like foster a kid, by the way. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm saying. But the problem versus the solution is a very one-sided battle.
I agree completely. And for context, of those 420,000 children that we just talked about, 90%, Ron, 90% of them are statistically guaranteed to experience at least 2 to 5 different types of, and I'll just swap words here, exploitation, harm, danger, calamity. We're talking about kids that have been, they have faced down giants that are using things like bicycle chains, dog cages. And again, you know, now we're playing this game of what can I say with the algorithm, but people can imagine when I say 2 to 5, this is not limited to just physical harm. Some of this is they're malnourished. They're not being fed. Captors are keeping them out of the hospitals because they don't want discovery, right? Doctor sees a bruise. It looks like a palm or a fingerprint. Starts poking around, starts learning things. It helps the case against that person that has people pointing fingers at them. So they keep the kids out of the hospital. One of the things we see every year at Whispering Ponies Ranch when we're serving the children that have been pulled out of a lot of this stuff, they don't even trust foods that don't appear processed. And what do I mean by that? If it doesn't come in a prepackaged, you know, some big major brand of cornflake or something, they won't trust it, because all they've ever had is rotten food that has made them sick, or not enough of it. We've got kids that want to take food and stuff it in their pockets because they only get maybe a public school meal once a day and nothing on the weekends. This is making sense. So 90% of the kids in foster care are statistically guaranteed to experience 2 to 5 types of abuse, harm during their time in the foster care system. On an average, 23,000 of these kids who survive the gauntlet, who don't come up missing for lack of law enforcement looking for them, who don't end up missing without a chain of custody for lots of reasons, HIPAA law included, that somehow survive all of this and go on to actually age out of the program. These are not people now that have job skills. 80% of the men will become immediately incarcerated. They've not been prepared for the world. They don't have vocational skills, Ron. They don't know how to communicate. Worse, a lot of communities stigmatize them. These are unwanted undesirables. They have a history of difficulty. Oh, I know that boy or girl. She's a fill in the blank adjective for someone who works in exchange for cash.
Yeah.
And this is terrible, but the church stigmatizes as well. These are the unwanted. They have tattoos. They've got a rough past. This person, keep them away from our shiny church building. We wouldn't want them to come in and smell the place up. We're having worship here, doggone it. I'm a bit jaded about the organized, institutionalized church, if you haven't gleaned that by now. 70% of the young women that age out will immediately become pregnant with children that are statistically guaranteed where? Placement back into the foster care system, and the cycle goes on and on and on. You see what I'm saying? And by the way, I should say this last thing, and then I'll get your reaction, Ron.
Sure.
I want to make sure that people are not feeling like I am disparaging those good actors. There are good law enforcement. There are wonderful people that have opened up their homes, that have taken on troubled children at their own expense, emotionally, mentally. They're taking on difficult placements, and they're doing it to stand in the gap for kids. I'm not talking about those people.
Yeah.
I'm talking
I'll be honest with you, Joe.
The ones that are exploiting it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's the foster care system, McDonald's, or the bank. All of these people, these monstrous people, exist in all these places. But it just so happens the ones that work in the foster care system or at the fairground or in kindergartens have direct access to children. It's the same way as when, you know, a bunch of policemen shoot a bunch of people as they're running away, and all the policemen get painted with the same brush. It's not the case. It's just the danger of the level of access of children differs when we get into this. So in no way are we painting the whole industry, but my God,
for sure,
like any job where you have access to children, you have predators who have shaped their life into that career to gain access to those children. And that goes for the most dumbass, like brain dead members of society who just go around with the carnivals and try and swipe kids from the fairs. It got so bad in the UK that there's laws now that when fairs are traveling around the country, they have to check in as they're going around the country, so that if any kids go missing as they're traveling around, they know where the fair. I didn't know this. Well, and again, if you're a regular, we'll ask John Wedger to go over that exactly next time he's on. But he's the one that who brought that to my attention, and it's just unreal when you realize the business side of the foster care, how children are bidded on between care system and different facilities, especially autistic children. The top end of this are autistic kids who are nonverbal. They are next to natural disaster in a third world country. Okay, these two things, those are the easiest ways for this system to just manipulate numbers when it comes to kids, and it's horrific, but it's everywhere. It's these people are everywhere. There's no longer the stigma of the weird guy with the mustache and the trench coat. There is no MO now. You know,
most of transportation.
Yep.
You see it on the movies. The van shows up in the middle of the night at a big parking lot somewhere. They force the girl in. You see that, and that does happen.
Yeah,
that happens.
Yep.
But where most of this is happening, this grooming is taking place online.
Oh,
People are looking. You know this. I'm not teaching you, Ron, anything.
Yeah, no, carry on, Joe. Yeah,
People, so pay attention. Kids coming home with a history of thoughts where they want to unalive themselves, or kids that are looking for affirmation, coming home with pedicures or manicures or a new purse or a new skateboard that they didn't have the money for. This could be one of the first evidences that they are now being profiled by someone who is fraud. You know this.
Yep.
And I keep saying, this. Sorry, I just met Ron like less than an hour ago, and he unbelievable guy with this giant past of having done a lot of the work in exposing the very people I'm talking about. So he's not learning anything today.
Yeah, but I'm sitting here just going, yes, Joe. Yes. Honestly, I've literally said 90% of the things that you have said this evening throughout for the last few years, and it's just great. I'm just sitting here just going, yep, yes, Joe. Yes,
I appreciate that.
You're nailing it, bro. You're nailing it.
I appreciate that. One of the darkest, it's not even a secret anymore, but one of the darkest elements of society, and I don't know that you've thought about it in these words exactly, Ron, but it's my assertion that there are many corporations designing cartoons now, our public school education systems that want to purposefully normalize inappropriate relationships between adults and children so that they can legalize it, get rid of the age gap between what is permissible and not go to jail for what you're doing with a child. But the other thing is they want to normalize that exploitation so that the children don't even know that it's taking place, because this is normal. This is love. This is normal. I'm being loved. Somebody that I trust is walking me through these intricacies in terms of relationship. There you go. Is this making what I'm saying? Like we have a societal push to normalize the exploitation of these children so that they don't even realize that it's happening. Complicit victims of exploitation.
It's bonkers, right? Because it used to be a bit of like myth when you looked at a certain still image from a Disney movie, right? And a Disney character would have an inappropriate bulge in their trousers, or there'd be something going on that looked like a marital aid built into a castle, so to say. You could write it off as like weird, quirky things, right? Because it's only a couple of seconds, no one's really seeing it. But when you have like non-binary cows, right? And this ideology of having to choose a gender or sexuality as a child, I'm sorry, right? If you're a fully grown adult, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care what you do, okay? As long as you're living a consensual life, I don't care what you do, okay? I just hope you do it safely and you feel good about yourself, okay? That's it, okay? Children, if they're allowed to transition, they should be allowed to drive and own firearms, okay? That's all I'm saying, okay? If that's the case, arm them and see how that works out. See how quickly you want the 6 and 7-year-olds disarmed, because, frontal cortex and that, do you know what I mean? It infuriates me beyond, I don't even know how to put it. It really angers me when I see, especially when it's huge, massive brands like Netflix trying to slip this stuff in under the radar for children. It drives me mad. It really does.
To me, it is one way of putting it. It is the telegraphing. It's the telling on oneself. It's the putting on full display the desires of the adult. It's telling the world, this is what I want. This is a mirrored reflection. I want these children to go here or choose that because it's what I want. And I'm willing to manipulate young minds who inherently would not even be asking these questions at all if I didn't first build a framework purposed to guide them through a series of thought exercises that take them to an outcome that I secretly want. Does that make sense?
100. It's also preconditioning that if you're viewing this as a child, it's bolstering the expectation that nobody is going to accept you, okay? And it creates this isolation. So you're already predestined to not want to talk to parents or whatever. It's a weird one for me. It's a weird one for me. Like, once you turn 18, right? Do whatever the hell you want, okay? But until then, I'm going to yap about what's best for you, children, okay? Because it makes no sense to me. It makes no the whole argument for kids and transition. It just I'm not. I can't even deal with it.
It would probably almost make this conversation dumber for me having even said this, but I'll use an example of a tattoo.
Okay.
How many of your viewers have ever maybe went and got a tattoo and then, like, literally 5 years later, they're like, they regret, they want to have it lasered? Can you imagine permanently?
I've got one on my ankle. I've got this tiny little lizard, right? It's like it is the campus thing about me is this little ankle tattoo, because it was the only one I could afford when I was on holiday, right? When I was like 19 or something like that. And honestly, I forget it's there. And every now and again, I'll see it and I'll be like, oh God, hello, you little mistake. How are you? Back under the sock you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
well, see, a haircut you could change. You could change your outfit. You can look back at pictures from 20 years ago and say, oh my gosh, what a cringe outfit. But this is part of why I said, we're probably dumber for having used this as an example. But think about how superficial that is. A tattoo, you could have that lasered, but there's this regret of having done it. So imagine a small, undeveloped brain now with adults that have hyper developed a program with all of the kind of psychological tools and levers that have been developed specifically to take a young, undeveloped brain through a process of exploring whether they are male or female.
Yep.
I
can raise the stakes on you, Joe. I can raise the stakes. So you get that laid down fundamentally, right? Maybe 7, 8 years old, get that laid down, get them real confused, right? And then give them a drug that just stops puberty, right? What? I'm sorry, what crazy ex-Nazi PDF file scientist came up with the eternal child tablet? Like, what? So that, again, blows my mind. I know puberty can be difficult, okay? I went through it. It was terrible, okay? It's a rite of passage, okay? There's not many rites of passage left in this world, okay? A couple of 100 years ago, we'd leave you in the woods with a spear and tell you not to come back until you kill a bear, okay? And now all you got to do is just deal with your feelings, all right? It's not a big vision quest. But that was another one for me, Joe. I could not believe what I was hearing. Oh, we've developed a drug that'll slow down the puberty of your children, and if you, the parent, decide it. And I'm like, if this was a movie, you'd think it was far-fetched.
I should tell you, I don't know if anybody will find this interesting at all, but another thing that I do, I'm very passionate about holistic health. This is totally off the rails for about 10 seconds, and then I'll bring it back. I'm a board-certified holistic health practitioner, so I also talk through people's autoimmune diseases and digestive disorders and hormonal imbalances. And I'm just going to collapse to a 5-second soundbite.
Great.
To me, you are mutilating the endocrine systems and the metabolic systems in these children before their bodies have even finished developing. And some of that damage, without a miracle from God the Father and a whole lot of supplementation and personal devotion. We're not even talking about the ones that have had surgical rerouting, but only the ones that have wiped their bodies out through pharmakia. They are now probably poised for a lifetime of things like osteoporosis. They may have bone deficiencies. They may have, I'm sitting here once again editing, but the point is,
of course,
because their hormone, they never finished developing. Their voices are damaged. Their thyroids may be in disarray now. Their testosterone may struggle to normalize. Now they're talking about bioidentical hormone replacement therapies. And what are we talking about right now? What is this podcast about?
Right, dude. But here's the thing. Like, this is 2025, right? And we've got all this madness happening. And it's going to be before 2040, we're going to see the first string of documentaries covering the first lot of 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds that are now 21, whose parents gave them these drugs, whose parents said that they could whose parents sat down with a 7-year-old who said, I think it's time to transition, Mum, and they agreed to let it happen, right? that we're going to start seeing the first ream of it all, man. I'm telling you, because
you're right. You're absolutely right.
Unless there's a secret, Joe, that I don't know, unless all these billion-dollar companies are bringing in 6-year-olds to make the decisions, okay, it's really going to be a tragic next decade for these poor kids. It really is.
I agree. You know, one of the things too that's enabling a lot of this to happen isn't just the big corporations and their cartoons, but I would say on every front, from everything we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes, Ron, that AI, while it has some very positive benefits to maybe more rapidly articulating an email or some other benign uses, it, of course, like the rise of the internet, where there is good and evil. You can use the internet to research the cure to a malevolent disease. You can also use the internet to traffic a child, like good and evil, right? So AI is no different in my view. There are good upsides to using it. If it's your slave, if you're using it to serve your outcomes and more expeditiously serve you at work, but it is now also being used by children. You mentioned earlier, you know, what adults do versus what children do. These mobile apps, are you aware of these companion mobile apps that are being designed for children?
AI girlfriends. Is this what you're talking about, right?
Well, it's both. It's AI girlfriends, it's my parents, it's replacement friends.
Wow. See, my YouTube, I've been YouTube Premium for about a year, and it ran out last month because I was broke. And the whole month I experienced advertising in 2025 on YouTube for the first time, right? And it was bear fleece and artificial intelligent girlfriends. That was it. That's all the algorithm was feeding me, right? And I haven't really looked into it, but now that you say marketing them towards kids, I'm now realizing that we're stepping from the vulnerable, alone, young adolescent child now not being able to even break free, because even if they see this as a way of stepping away from the internet or their toxic friends or their Discord, they're now trapped at the helm of a sassy AI girlfriend or AI parent.
Yeah, companions. They're companions. So it can be a girlfriend, it can be your best boyfriend, it can be your best girlfriend, it can be your buddy, your mentor. And serious questions like, you know, my life is this thing, should I unalive myself? And it's talking these kids through, you know, weighing the pros and cons of that decision. And so we already have a society where, you know, the idea of mother, father talking with son or daughter and having, my dad used to call it the art of conversation, children learning how to articulate the dilemma and having social decorum, wait your turn to speak, you know, don't just punch someone in the face because you feel that way, like be polite, argue, you know, where do you take a staunch stance? All of that, you know, was passed down from grandfather to father to father to son. And now you have AI apps also taking over the role of mentor in a lot of children now who are mostly being raised by screens. You know, I would call that like the decline of the nuclear family. Somebody else could put a different label on it, but it's the idea of
nuclear family was gone way before the screens turned up, bro. But it's a good analogy. This if anything, we're only just queuing into how everything got destroyed before the screens, because we've been distracted by the screens for so long. We've all just started to put them down now and go, wait a minute, I don't know anyone on my street, and like apparently it's too dangerous to send my kids out at Halloween now because they're all going to get needles put in their candies. Like, what is going on? I'm going back to my screen, Joe. Okay, I'm going back to say the screen is safe. No, I'm kidding. But it's crazy. It's crazy because you're right. You are right.
Deep fakes and face swapping, hyper customized sadism, chatbots and role play. I mean, this is all stuff that AI is bringing now. And I would argue that a lot of this is headed towards a place where there will be people using the Constitution to argue in every possible way that these technologies are here to save our children, because they will allow for exploiters to create avatars that then they are able to exploit. And in doing that, like they've already made this argument with dolls, you know, intercourse dolls, they'll say that these AI companion apps are allowing these people who are bent that way to exercise these, what you and I would maybe describe as demonic activities, in order to salvage a child. It's letting them work out their problems without taking this out on a real life human. I would argue that it's just practice for the real thing, because you can't remove the part of this where you're dehumanizing your view of some other human. This is no longer son, daughter, human being. This is a plaything that only exists for me to satiate myself with. And then you remove the bumpers and say it's AI. I can now daydream anything I want, create any reality I want. The dangers of where AI is going to take all the things that we've been talking about for the last hour, Ron. Do you agree?
Joe, I'm about to blow your mind. Okay. So first of all, about 5 years ago, I done a video where I challenged the big 3 adult entertainment websites to the fact that they were allowing people to upload content of them making love to child-sized dolls, right? And needless to say, hundreds of thousands of videos vanished off of these websites overnight, right? I so happened to upload my video calling them out to their own website, and apparently that was breaching their terms of service, right? But I did get like hundreds of thousands of these videos taken down, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them. It's bonkers. So here's Ron's response, Joe. Anything that facilitates and normalizes the attraction and the predatory abuse of children should not exist. Okay. When you turn around, first of all, oh, but it's just a piece of plastic. Sure. Well, I tell you what, let's ban the doll and let's make them, have to go to the frickin', I don't know, the vegetable shop and buy a bunch of melons and tape them together and facilitate their fantasy that way. Let's not make it so easy they can order a plastic child. Okay. Let's at least make it a challenge for them. So when it comes to the AI, people say to me, well, okay, but it's just AI, right? Okay, so it's not. You are creating images that are going to further facilitate journey of an individual. First of all, if you're looking and creating that stuff, you're already in the head. Like, you're done. So you're already dark and on a downward path. Like, nobody just rocks up to an AI bit of software and is like, oh, let's just make some about child abuse content. You know what I'm saying? I called out Snapchat about 6 years ago for when they done the baby filter. And I called them out for facilitating deep fake child abuse material. That went global. There was like 6 national newses that cover it. Snapchat had to issue an apology. I ain't down for anything that normalizes any sort of sexual anything with children. You can all suck your mums. Okay. It's just, no, it's not happening. So when people say, oh, but it's virtual reality, it's this, it's that, it's AI. Dude, I'm sorry. Think about it. How about just imagine that when they release the AI software for the predators, it's a member of your family that the person in the game kind of looks like. And then just imagine how upset you'd be. Okay.
I already asked questions right now that don't have an answer. Like, where are people's civil liberties in all of this? When there are technologies that exist right now that would permit some downloader to use my face, not that anybody would use my ugly mug, but could do it, and even use my voice from Skywatch TV.
I could do
that. Was easy. That was 2 years ago. That was super stupid easy.
I was just about to say, before I could start that now and have that finished before this podcast was over. I could have your face, your voice on any preordained piece of video. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. In fact, this morning.
Crazy, bro. Crazy.
This morning, I saw Tom Selleck selling a prostate supplement. And I'm not making this. Now, did Tom Selleck really sell a prostate supplement?
I don't know.
My guess is that it's AI.
Listen, all I'm saying is,
but you see what I'm saying? Like, where is the law in this? Like, people are already doing this in benign ways.
Do you know how many videos of animals asking humans to help their children who've been stuck in swamps that I have cried physical tears of emotion to then find out is goddamn AI, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is real? Like, it's going to get to the point where nobody's making any content. It's just bots and AI, and we're just all 300 pounds sat at home working online like this, consuming and conforming. It's coming, man. Because I couldn't tell the difference. I felt like my mum I felt like my 70-year-old mother on Facebook asking me if the massive owl that's 2 meters tall on the woman's arm is real. No, mum, it's not. It's AI.
Oh my gosh.
Honestly, bro, physical tears. I can't look at the dog and the eagle. I played it on a live stream. Yeah, I can't tell anymore. So I get what you're saying. And again, we've digressed a little bit, but the seriousness of the point of this is facilitating any creation of these dark thoughts is perpetuating the mindset. That's right. Scientists have already proved that if you get sensors put on your head and close your eyes and imagine yourself running a marathon, your brain has no idea if you're actually doing that thing or if you're thinking about that thing. So when you start creating a perpetual, never-ending platter of new content and material, you are just creating a monster. And whether it's plastic dolls, whether it's AI, whether it's virtual reality, it's not right.
We've always been limited, at least according to the law. People have always been limited to what they could view legally from consensual adults, let's say just love making on video. Now the bumper rails come off.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things, we don't have time for this probably today, but one of the things that I talk about in my book, Innocence Shattered, is that a lot of what people are seeing when they are clicking on what they think is consensual lovemaking is actually people in forced prostitution situations, and they're being videoed and they're being sold, and they cannot get out of this this never-ending loop of entrapment. So we don't have time to unpack, but it's impact in the book. My father, I'm assuming we're just about out of time, Ron.
Listen, we've got a few more minutes. So you just say what you need to say, brother. There's no, we're good. We're good.
My father, Dr. Thomas Horn, he was a multi-time best-selling author. He wrote about a lot of stuff. He did a 4-hour audio series about 2 years before he passed away in 2023. We lost him in October of 2023.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. He was my hero, my moral compass, my business partner, my ministerial partner, you do life with your dad. I was so blessed to be able to say I was one of those that got a great dad. If you're going to have a dad, you got to get one like the one that I had. His last book was a corroboration between he and I. We collaborated, and it came out in February of 2024, like 3 months after he died. He had just turned in his final manuscript.
Wow.
The book was called Summoning the Demon. And do you know what the whole book was?
Tell me.
It was a prediction about where all of this AI is going to go. And one of the predictions that I put in the book, and of course, this would probably be more fascinating if you're a Bible believer. And, Bible believers that read the book of Revelation would call it the rise of the Antichrist, or the mark of the beast, or the beast system. People in secular America that don't believe in the Bible would say, yeah, I agree that we're probably rushing towards like a communist China style social currency model. We're all moving. They're going to use terrorism and things like that to try to scare people into surrendering their rights so that they're a part of a giant digital construct. And if you're not a part of that machine, you are a terrorist. What are you hiding? And they'll use all kinds of amendments to the Constitution to force this through. But what I asserted in the book was people, because of things like deep fakes, AI, the facial swapping, the stealing of intellectual properties, the fact that very quickly people's brands, people's intellectual properties, their companies, they're going to start experiencing actual damage from AI generated things. Well, this is going to force. I'm almost done, and I can see you're exploding.
No, it's okay. Just keep going, Joe. I'm trying not to interrupt you. Sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. I can see you got something. This is going to. I'll collapse because of all of that. People will feel the need to defend their livelihood. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not a minister. I didn't get in a car with that woman or that child. No, I didn't. No, my brand didn't say this on October the 20th. I never said. This is going to accelerate the people clamoring for, get this, Ron, clamoring for the federal government to start to bring legislation to fruition that digitally authenticates you as a human being. Meaning that when you create content, you can say, no, according to my government issued digital authentication number that maybe I scanned with one of my hand or did a retinal reading, And it will tell you that without a doubt, I was here on October the 28th, and I was with this. You're going to have people not afraid of that system. They're going to be begging for it, demanding it. And here is the federal government steps in and says, we are hearing you. We are here to offer freedom and a stability, and we'll be able to separate the terrorists from. Anyway, this is how they will control whether you keep what money you make, whether you're able to buy a home, whether you're able to go to a school, anyway, go ahead, Ron, explode.
Dude, honestly, do you know, you said literally all of it, like all the points that were coming in my brain. You nailed every one of them. But here's the one thing. So my first point was going to be about intellectual property, but my second point was about how you prove you are not the person in a deep fake, which would have to be through geolocation and government control through identification.
That's right, exactly.
Which is exactly what you've just said. So for example, my government issue app shows you that I was at Aunt Sally's house on that Thursday when you said I was getting into that car. Neener, right? Nailed it, Joe, right? But here's the other thing. I wonder how soon it's going to be before things like Bruce Willis's face between the ages of 25 to 39 becomes a rentable IP for people that want to remake movies 20 years from now with an actor that's no longer alive.
Oh, for sure. I thought the same thing.
Like actors, if somebody, there's already an evil group of lawyers sitting in around a table going, right, how can we milk the dead? How can we milk the dead for all their money? Right? Because
that's not where I thought you were going to go.
Yeah.
But that's just as interesting. What I was going to say, and what I thought you were getting ready to say, is the kind of cloak and dagger that will then afford the people that are controlling who has access to the numbers. These people that are right now worried about being caught on video or caught in scandal or they're not worried about discovery. They can just simply no. In the same way they've rigged elections and counterfeited us out of laws that should have adjudicated people properly, but now they're living out life sentences unfairly because of a system that wanted that person to shut up and go away. The controllers now get to decide who gets to be digitally authenticated and whether they agree with whether you were where you said you were, because according to our internal records, the manipulation.
It's the scary overlord ending to all of this is just, it just snowballs and snowballs, because you can see the path we're on now. We've got a situation in our country with undocumented French tourists coming over on boats, shall we say, and they're trying to use that as a way for pushing through digital IDs and all of this stuff, and we're having none of it. Like, we are literally having none of it over here, because we can see the progress of where it's going to lead us to.
And I don't know if this is true, so don't quote me on this at all, Ron, but I had heard like a year ago that they were going to use Pat Morita's face in like the most recent Karate Kid, or maybe they did. I had heard.
It's funny you see that, because
that was the first time I thought about what you had just said. Like, okay, but I don't know if they did. Do you know about that? Or
well, look, there's been a lot of cases where people who are not alive anymore have been in movies, right? We've seen it happen before, but we've never seen a market specifically designed for IPs of not only people who've passed away, but people who are older now. So you might have had a bombshell actress who's now in her 60s, who's quite happy to sell her IP from 25 to 35 for new movies. I think it's an interesting one. I don't know if the world's ready yet to pay money to see an AI generated person, but mate, we're definitely going to get there. We're down the road somewhere. We're definitely going to get there.
It could be the rise of a new form of nostalgia. 20 years after Arnold Schwarzenegger is dead, people are like, you know what? We can't.
Oh God, that's what they're going to do. It's going to be nostalgia. You just evil marketing director the hell out of this, Joe. Do you know, that's exact. And I can tell you now, the guy in the boardroom is going to move his glasses like you just said. You know what we're going to do? Nostalgia.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you, that's it. 100%. Oh man, we are giving some evil people some great ideas.
Honestly.
Like, but look, I'll be honest with you, Joe. It's been a great introduction, because I feel like we've only just touched on what it is that you do and the work that
Thank you.
Skywatch does. Even I would love to even do a show where you go into more about your dad, go over what the stuff that he had done in his books. I see this very much as an introductory to yourself, to the community, and the first of many chats. Because also, apologies to everybody, we're an hour late, which definitely affected how many people came back an hour later to watch. So I do apologize about that. And we'll be back again. But Joe, tell everybody what you've got coming up next. Remind everybody about the book, and yeah, make sure everyone subscribes. All the links are down in the description box, and check out the website.
I appreciate that, Ron. And thank you again for the opportunity to come on. As I said at the onset, it's been difficult to get this message out because, you know, people have an aversion to it. We weren't inherently wired to want to hear any of this, but I feel like the child right now that's being handled by those that would exploit them need a voice. And one of the ways that people can help if they want to get engaged, I didn't mention this earlier, but this book, which is available right now at Amazon.com, but it helps us as a ministry more now that it's out. If you go directly to SkyWatchTVstore.com, and also highly informative, the 6-part television docuseries Rescue Us. One of the things that these do different, Ron, is they don't just raise awareness on, let's say, one aspect of, forget the word you used earlier, transportation.
Yep, there you go.
They actually have a large appendix at the end, and the same with the series, that walk the reader through thought exercises designed to bring them through giving God their yes, saying, yes, I have that skill set. And I don't care if you're grandma on a pension with no money. I don't care if you're a person of means with land. Every human can start immediately standing in the gap for one of these children. And it's all at the end of the book, Innocent Shattered, kind of designed to help you walk through that process. If you want to learn more, you can go to skywatchtv.com. That is our, we call that our flagship program. I'm launching a brand new program called Life TV now that'll be on the PTL network, hopefully in January. We're a publisher, defenderpublishing.com. We publish books that are all about Bible prophecy and the end of times and the war between, you know, the United States and China. Just lots of stuff. And then, of course, our charitable ranch, Whispering Ponies Ranch, where we stand directly with children that need rehabilitation. So there you have it.
Just amazing work, Joe. Like, really, just amazing conversation, and just an incredible path that you've been on. And I can't wait for our next chat, Joe. I really, really can't.
Thank you, Ron.
There's so much. I feel like if you and I were at a party, right, you and I would just sit and yap, right? Yap, turn around, and everyone else would have left.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Don't know where they all went. Oh, we've been here for 9 hours, Joe. Okay, we've been here for 9 hours. Okay, that's where everyone has left. Because yeah, there's just we could just go on and on and on. We really, really could. And
I agree. The whole time I'm talking, I'm watching your face, and it's like, this guy is exploding. He already knows what I'm getting ready to say, like the whole hour.
Yeah. It's nice to hear someone who has gone on their own journey and arrived at every single point that you should have done, because a lot of people put on blinkers. They try and reshape things so that they're not as bad, or they try and justify, or, you know, you can't with this. It's very much rip off the band-aid, bulldoze. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a company, a politician, the man next door, individuals who think that children are for the rules don't apply. This world ain't. Prison. That's the word I'm looking for. Prison. That's what we need to do with all of them. All right. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, Sean Atwood channel. Thank you to the admins. Thank you to all of you for being here. Please like and share. We will, of course, be back tomorrow night. I do believe it's 7 o'clock. I'm live with Paranormal Files, delving into all kinds of stuff about Satanism and his experiences and lots of stuff. But Joe, thank you for being here. And we will see you again very, very soon. And to all of you at home, have a fantastic evening. Thank you all.